Hey everybody, Zach and Jesse here, and we have a really fun interview today with a company called Paxter in Norway, and we're talking today with Arild Brudeli, who is the head of systems and innovation at Paxter. So thank you so much for joining us, Arild.
It's my pleasure to have you here, and honored to be on your show for sure. So I've been following you for a long time, and it's cool for us.
Well, I'm really excited to talk to you today because you guys make really interesting products, some really cool e-mobility solutions. These are kind of tinier 4- and 3-wheel vehicles, and they're not your typical vehicles. Can you tell us what they're all about? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're making small delivery vehicles, purposed, or in the beginning we started with post-delivery. Lately it's been more against parcels, but newspapers, foods and everything. So everything that needs to be delivered fast in typical urban environment, that's where we do our best work. And actually we look at ourselves not as a vehicle producer, but a producer of an efficient tool. So that's what we say to our customers, that we have not so much focus on the vehicle but the tool, because what we try to do is make our customers have a more efficient workday, because the time they use on delivery is critical to have a good profit in that area.
Because these vehicles aren't actually being, bought and used by your typical consumer, right? The customers that you're talking about are actual businesses like delivery companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, so in the beginning we had most postal delivery, actually delivering letters and what you have in your mailbox, and then we moved over to typical parcel deliveries like DPD, DHL, big companies actually, and also we have a lot of newspaper deliveries like in Germany and in Sweden and also here in Norway. So now this is not typical used by consumer, but we do see that the market is changing, because many people, like in Norway, the electric wave, so to say, about electric vehicles have come really far, and people love electric vehicles here, and so we start to see some interest to use Paxter in new areas, like maybe on a campsite or for Intel transport, if you have like a big farm or something like that. So we see new markets, but until now we have mostly focused on the professional market.
And so your vehicles, I noticed, have, I think, 3 different battery options usually, right? And so your clients can choose, depending on what their routes are like, what kind of battery they need. And I think our viewers would be a little surprised that the batteries are smaller than I think they would normally have heard about, right? Because these vehicles are so small and light, they don't need much battery. Can you tell us about the different options that they have?
Yeah, so actually we run for 3 options. It's like 5 kilowatt hours and 7.1 kilowatt hours and 9.2 kilowatt hours. So these are small battery packs for typical, if you compare with the typical cars. But the thing is that our vehicle is only like 300 kilograms light. But fully loaded we are up to 700. But still it's a light vehicle and it's small. So our rating when we do the TÜV homologation is 84 watt hours per kilometer. I'm not sure what that is in miles, but it's quite low. But our customers, they are using it really hard. Their drive cycle is typical full throttle, full brake all day, and they typically use around 105 to 110 watt hours per kilometer.
Now, how much can you put in one of these things? Because I bet a lot of people watching are like, well, that looks really tiny. I don't know what you can do with that. But I've seen some video. It looks like it's like one of those circus carts that like the clowns keep getting out of. It looks like you can just pack a lot of boxes in there. Can you tell us like what you can carry in a typical Paxter?
Yeah, so we have 3 different Paxters in compared to the volume size. So we have the delivery Paxter that is typically used in food delivery and in post delivery when the volume is not that big. That's typical 600 liters of cargo space. And we have the version that we call a cargo that have 1 cubic in the rear compartment, and we also have the front compartment with about 100 to 150 liters of storage. We are used to have what you say, this is really tiny, because our customer is normally driving a huge van, a typical Mercedes-Benz Sprinter in long and high version, and we come in here with a vehicle that could go inside this. But what happened is really that when they start looking, because we often together with this talk about what type of cargo should you be delivering with this vehicle. We are not delivering like pallets. We are delivering like typical one-off pieces, things that been watches and iPhones and stuff that comes through the e-commerce market. And then the Paxter is so efficient, so you can step on each side, and you are able to deliver maybe 150 and up to 200 parcels on a day, and a typical company today maybe deliver 50 or 60. So then we start giving that understanding how we could use this vehicle in an efficient way.
And it's really interesting because if you think about delivery, it's the delivery vans from the past, well before e-commerce, were designed to be delivering large numbers of goods to stores and businesses, where they would then be distributed by passersby and people who were commuting to the store to pick it up. But this sort of package delivery thing is rather new. And Paxter seems like one of the few companies that is actually rethinking what the delivery van might look like in a world where you are delivering, iPhones and watches and much smaller parcels. You're not delivering big batches of things. And you're making it much more usable for the space in which it's going to be used, which is residential streets.
Yeah, actually, I preach a lot of this these days, and some of the people in this company is calling me the priest because I try to convince people. But I can give you just a little overview of some numbers to understand how this market is changing. Because in 2018, it was 290 million parcels delivered in 2018, and compare that to 2014, that was an increase of 104%. So it's really increasing, And out of that parcels, 30% of all these parcels are single parcels, so one delivery on one address. And 60% of all these parcels are actually smaller parcels than a shoebox. So the thing is that the amount of parcels that are individual parcels on different addresses that is really small has increased extremely. So it's need to be some changes here to be able to do this efficient. So this is it's really interesting.
Let me get this straight. If I'm, say, DHL and my normal model was a big van, a big Sprinter van, and I'm delivering to Jesse's house, a small box, I've got to drive my big van quite a distance to his house using a lot of energy. How much energy and money can your customers save by switching their model to a Paxter?
Yeah, it's hard for me to actually say a number, but I know that when we started in London, because DPD, they are customer of our vehicles, and they run about 30 Paxters in a micro hubs in London. So they, instead of driving all these big vans into the city and start delivering, they drive one big e-fuso in an electric lorry into the center. They drop off all the parcels into small Paxters, and then they deliver out. And I know that they on Twitter, they twittered that they have saved £1 on each delivery when they started using the Paxter, and that's at least a significant number for sure.
Wait, so that's over $1 a delivery they've saved. Anyone in e-commerce knows that that's a huge deal, because that goes right to your bottom line.
Yeah, it's big time. But on the other hand, you have to remember that they have to adjust their logistics, because they still have big vans. So the Paxter is not taking out all their vans. It's like they take out 30 vans and put in 30 Paxters, and then they have to split like their parcel sizes. So they are delivering typical goods smaller than one shoebox in the Paxter, and bigger parcels in the bigger vans, because for sure there still are big parcels, but in that parcel it could be really efficient with a big van, because then you are not able to do like 120 deliveries if you have a lot of big parcels and you have to use your a cart or something to deliver it. So
I'm just trying to think, so with the Paxter, does it have regenerative braking?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a setup of drive modes. We use 3 different drive modes, so the driver are able to choose between them. One mode is what we call typical winter mode. The reason for winter mode is that if you're going on really slippery surfaces like snow or ice, then it's better to have not so hard regenerative brake. Then we have an eco mode. That's the most efficient mode, where when you go off the throttle, you start regen quite hard. So we use regenerative brake instead of your normal brakes.
I mean, I'm picturing a city like New York where delivery vans have a really tough time. They have to basically park at the end of blocks usually, and then, just cart all the stuff down the block to the resident or to the business. Whereas it sounds like with a smaller footprint Paxter, you could get right to the door where you're going, and it wouldn't interrupt the flow of pedestrians.
Yeah, that's correct. And actually, normally when we start up working with a new big customers, we often do logging. So we are going out, look at their routes, how they are working, and we use measurements and GPSs and stuff, and measure how much they are walking, how much they are driving, how fast the average speed is, and stuff like that. And what we see is that in typical big cities, we see that drivers are mostly using their vans as a depot. So they're finding a place, oh, here I was able to park. So they park their van and then they walk around, forth and back to the van, picking up a new parcel, go over a complete block to another location. It's a lot of walking. But with the Paxter, you are able to park really everywhere almost, and you can go directly to the door. So you save time and you save a lot of walking, and it's always room for a Paxter. So yeah, it's quite narrow. So
now I was noticing on your website that you can charge a Paxter a couple ways. You can charge it level 2, which a lot of our EV drivers will be familiar with, and that's a pretty fast way to do it. But because the batteries are so small, it looked like you can also just plug it into a regular wall outlet, even though it takes longer. But it's a small battery, so overnight it would easily recharge, I would imagine. So can you talk to us about, I'm assuming you have different size clients, right? You've got your big DHLs, but then I assume you also have some probably like some ma and pa stores that use it?
Yeah, we have some clients with only one Paxter for sure. So considering charging, I think like 99% of all Paxters are charged on a typical Chuco, a normal household plug actually. So because the Paxter is taking out only 1200 watt from the wire, so that means that your coffee machine is using a lot of more power, and that's also an important thing, because then you need to use so much money on the infrastructure. You don't need to set up a big charger station or something. You just plug it in. So, and this is not homologated as a car. It's really what we in Europe call a moped. So it's 45 5 kilometers per hour. That's I think 27 miles per hour or something. So it's a low speed vehicle, and 16-year-olds can drive that in Norway and most of Europe. So because cars, they need to have a charging station, at least in Norway, but this vehicle is legal to charge on a normal plug because of the small power outlet.
And so how fast do they charge? So let's talk level 2 and the small power outlet.
Actually, it's the same time on level 2 and also on the normal charge plug, because we use the same charger actually inside. So there is no different charge time for level 2. But if we have customers that need fast charge, we are interested to develop these things together with the customer, and that's typical how Paxter work actually, because we go together with the customer and we look how they are using it, and we try to make the best solution for the customer. So if there is a customer that typically will run their Paxter like 3 shift or something like that, then we probably will take from or develop some fast charge option, because our batteries have no problem to charge much faster.
So I was looking on your website, Arild, and I saw that there is what looks like something new in 2020, but I don't understand the European designations of L6 and L7. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so until now we have produced only one vehicle category, that's the L6. So L6 is what we call in Europe a moped. It's limited in speed to maximum 45 kilometers per hour or 27 miles per hour, and it has also a power maximum power of 6 kilowatts. So this year we also have started making a model that is L7. So that's what we call a motorcycle, a light electric quadricycle. And that's limited to 15 kilowatts, so it's almost a double of the power. We don't use the full power range for our L7 now because we don't need it, but we go for faster and we have more power. So for some needs, typical if you need more transit out to where you start delivering, that could be a really good reason to have higher speed.
So you said that the smallest battery size was what, 5 kilowatt hours?
Yep.
And I mean, a level 2 charging station, at least here in the States, puts out 6.6 kilowatts, which means that if you could charge it at 6.6, which I'm not sure, it would take less than an hour to charge. So, I mean, that is the amazing part of small battery cars, is that they charge faster. And even the largest one at about 9.8 kilowatts, is that right?
Yeah, 9.2.
You're going to be charging that in no time.
Right.
That is really, really cool to think about, because normally when you're thinking about charging like a Model S, it takes a lot longer because it's, 100 kilowatt hours. This is, 5% of that.
Well, what I want to talk about is something I saw on your website that I couldn't believe. I saw a Model S being charged by a Paxter. You guys, it appears, have an option where you can have vehicle to grid on your vehicles. Tell me about this.
Yeah, you have typical handyman that is doing a lot of work around on a company or maybe on a farm and stuff like that. They normally need some power outlets. So we found out that it will be interesting to include this in the Paxter, because we do see that most of our customers do use only 30% of the biggest battery actually. So we have homologated a system where we have an inverter that are able to put out 3 kilowatts of power from a normal household stick. And actually we are also allowed to do this in 3 inverters, so we can do 3 phases. So then you are actually able to output 9 kilowatt of power. So then you have a quite big inverter in the Paxter. So yeah, I have used it for different purposes, like angle grinder or a drill, or charging up drills and battery stuff when you have it back in the cargo. So yeah, it's fun.
I can think of so many businesses right now. Like, first of all, you're right. A handyman, like I'm a building contractor. So the idea of being able to pull up to a job site and quickly be able to just plug something in and do my work, that's amazing. But also you could start a business where you go around and like charge up vehicles that need a charge in the parking lot. Like, they're getting stranded or something. Like that's so cool. I love vehicle to grid.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's an option on your vehicles.
Yeah, it's cool.
So I want to talk about a viewer who might be watching right now and is like, okay, well, this is Norway. Those guys are the kings of EVs. You know, they're like got perfect charging infrastructure and a mindset, but it wouldn't work in my country, you know, whatever country that might be. Can you tell me, are you guys just in Norway right now, or have you made this work in other countries?
No, actually, the biggest part of our vehicles are outside Norway. So our biggest fleet of vehicles are actually on New Zealand. So that's quite far away from Norway. But we have focused on Europe because our homologation and approvals are European. So it's easiest for us to go to European countries. But we are in almost all European countries now. So yeah, we are looking out from Norway, absolutely.
And now talk to me about your fleet size. So you guys started, what, around 2013, 2014?
Yeah, so the project itself started in 2011. Then we started, the Paxter was actually a project in a company called Lloyd's. So Lloyd's was typical producing automotive parts for Toyota and cargo interiors for vans, actually. So they were working together with the Norwegian Post, and they did typical rework of vehicles. So they took out the front seat and they placed a shelf for the postman so he could have post instead of the passenger seat in vehicles. So the Norwegian Post contacted Lloyd's and asked them could you try to rebuild or help us change on an electric ATV that we could use for post delivery. So that was how the process started, and some clever guys here at Lloyd's, they were saying, oh, this will never work, we need something better, we need better ergonomics, and we need to reach both sides, and you have to go easy out and in, and how hard could it actually be to make an electric vehicle? So that's how it started, really.
And what's your scale for the future? So, I mean, so you've got 2,000 in your fleet now. What do you think is going to happen in the near future?
We hope for growth as everyone else, but we realize that there is a lot of work to be a pioneer, to have something that is new. It's quite a lot of work to actually prove that we are worth it to do this, and also we have realized to build up the service department is really important. So in Norway and in Germany, where we have many Paxters, we have our own service fleet with own cars running around and doing service, helping out if people are typical making a puncture or crashing. So because our customers need their vehicles to be 24/7 operational. So we hope for the production line we have here is really made for 4 vehicles per day. So right now we are producing a little bit less. I think we output about 6 to 7 vehicles each week now. So we have been producing all along this in 2020. So we're happy about that. But we need to, we want to increase. But still, we look at ourselves as a niche producer. So we are not going for 1 million vehicles, I think, for the next year. But for sure, we hope to increase up, and then it will be quite good for us if we were able to go up to 1,000 vehicles or something like that first, and yeah, keep increasing, I hope.
And so, as we look at 2020 and the global pandemic and the global lockdowns and everything like that, I would have to imagine that parcel delivery and food delivery and grocery delivery has been much more popular than in years past, just out of necessity.
Absolutely, and yeah, there have been some crazy months actually, in many ways for sure, but we hear about our customers that in some routes experience 400% increase, you know, and then you have quite a demanding task to be able to deliver all these packages, and also in Norway. In Norway, like, food delivery have not been that big, but the latest months have really exploded, you know. So typical medicines and stuff like that is really good business these days. So yeah, we have a lot of contact from new customers that are interested in our product because they see that if you want to deliver packages fast in a town, then there is probably no better vehicle than the Paxter. So we have a lot of new possibilities now, but on the other hand, I think many companies are a little bit afraid of investing these days because they are not sure what will go back to normal and what will not. So yeah, we also do feel a little bit uncertainty for some of the future.
Another thing that I want to talk about is this. Well, it kind of relates to the global lockdowns, is in Seattle, for example, and lots of other cities around the U.S., and I'm not sure about Europe. They've actually closed down streets to through traffic, to cars, and that allowed pedestrians to kind of roam those particular streets so that way they could get outside. And that kind of changed the way we think about streets, because for the longest time, all streets were designed for automobiles. We need to drive our giant cars down here. I'm wondering if, as this idea becomes more popular, because I think it will, people are going to look at these streets and be like, wow, this is, these streets that are permanently closed to cars, but I can live on them and still get all of my necessities. Those are going to be very sought after houses, because just for the benefit that you can walk outside, walk across the street without looking both ways. And I think that the Paxter fits in perfectly to this type of street where you don't want big, loud delivery vans roaming up and down the streets, because this is where we're going to have pedestrians. And the Paxter seems like a perfect fit for this type of new thing that might be emerging.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And what we see in the big cities in Europe is that even before the pandemic thing that has happened now, we see that the city center, they want to make it like more green, more focus on people. Closing down streets for driving is really typical in the European towns, I think. And I agree, Paxter is perfect here. And actually in Norway we do a really interesting project together with Bring. It's a big parcel company here in Norway, and Rangsells. They are doing delivery of parcels, and when they deliver parcels, they take with them waste that going back to recycle. They're taking goods both ways in an efficient way. And together with them, we have tried something we call Geofence. So our Paxter, it has a onboard Paxter Connect system, and it recognizes where it is. So then it's allowed to go into pedestrian areas, but then the maximum speed is lowered down to 6 kilometers per hour.
That's what we've been talking about.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
I love to hear that we're not crazy, that this can work.
Yeah. And the Norwegian Road Authority have already acknowledged this, and this test was actually about to start in March into Oslo, where they are going, and we also do a research study around this to check how people react to this, to have Paxters into these pedestrian streets. And one of the reasons that we are allowed to do this is because on Paxter we are looking into the future, and for sure in the future we will also see some autonomous drones or pods that are running around in streets. But from our side in Paxter, we say that if we're going to have drones that should go on road, it has to be road legal, but if it should go on pedestrian areas, and it has to do if you should have a pod that is delivering to you locally, then it needs to be another category. So first we need to have this working with a human, because if not, I don't think people will accept to have this without a human. So actually this is a beginning of testing how big should a vehicle be that should be delivering autonomous as well.
How are people in Norway and the other cities where Paxter is, how are they interacting with Paxters? How are they timid about them driving down the street? I mean, how do they interact?
Actually, people are are really enthusiastic when they see a Paxter. And I have a funny story about it, because when we started in London, no one had seen the Paxter in London before, and we shipped over 10 Paxters at Caxton in center of London. And when the post drivers started to go around, they were stopped all the time because people want to talk to them, because, oh, what kind of vehicle is this? Is it electric? How big is the battery? So actually they ended up, they had to make a flyer. So the driver had a flyer he could let over, because the productivity was falling because they were talking to all these people all the time. So it was, I think I can say that almost everyone liked the Paxter around in town.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with the design. It's a very friendly looking vehicle. It's not your typical truck that's just very utilitarian looking. It's nice and small, and the person sitting in it is going to be just about at eye level. So it's very nice you have that human connection where people are just like, oh, this is like, it's more human than it is vehicle. And we're not used to that. Normally it's a giant truck and you don't get to see the person inside as much.
And I just want to talk about idling. Most delivery vans have to idle. So they pull up, park, and then the engine, and all the emissions and stuff. A Paxter, obviously it's electric. It's not idling. And so I've got to imagine that people aren't annoyed by them.
Yeah. That's fully true. And we have some customers that delivery really early in the morning. They are delivering newspaper, then the newspaper should be in your box before 7 each morning. So they are typically starting their work at maybe 2 or 3 at night and working through the night. And you can imagine the difference by having a Paxter going up to you outside your door and delivery a newspaper instead of a typical diesel car. People really like to not have the noise, and I agree with you. The fact that we don't have any doors makes it really open, so you feel you are more connected to the driver. You see the driver easily, and the complete front of the Paxter is clear glass, so you see everything. So I think it's it has a friendly look, and also we in the early stages we actually did a lot of good work on the design, and we had a Norwegian designer, Bård Eker. He's working with Koenigsegg with no so big comparison maybe, but he's really clever at design, and we actually get some design prizes on the design of the Paxter as well. So I think it's a good look.
And speaking of your factory there, so you're producing, about one a day, it sounds like, or more. Are you production limited or are you demand limited?
Demand limited. Yeah, so we are able to we can output 4 each day on this production line, but also we try to keep our stock of people quite stable. So we try to have a steady flow on the line. So that's really important. We have earlier had some problems with that. We have tried to do really high deliveries in some months and then low in other months, but it's hard for the people. We want stable stock of workers. So
well, let's help with that. Yeah, I mean,
really. If you're watching this right now and you're in Europe and you run any kind of business, small or large.
Well, I'm just thinking about local governments. I mean, if you're a city and this is a tool that can go in your tool belt
Good point.
Either. I mean, because let's think about like parks and thinking about trash cans in parks.
Yep.
I remember we were in London about a year ago, and you have these giant trucks driving around these beautiful, pristine, quiet parks. These diesel trucks, and you're just like, why? Mm-hmm. Why do you need this?
Yeah, I mean, if people are interested, how can they find out more about Paxter?
Actually, I will recommend the website. Just go into the website, and if they want to order one, it's really simple. Just send a mail and say you want it, and you will have it delivered on door.
And so, are you delivering to the United States at all?
No,
say yes,
don't.
Say yes, say yes.
No, unfortunately not. So we don't do that today. So, but for sure, everything is possible. So I'm interested to take that discussion with someone that is interested, I think so.
Well, let me just ask you. So if enough of us Americans go on the website and how can we let you know that we're interested?
Maybe the biggest thing when you're going to the States is that we need to go through all the regulations for your area and then do the homologation over to be able to sell it there. So I think that's the maybe biggest step. So, but yeah, we have not looked too much into it. So challenge us on that.
All right, you heard the challenge, folks. Let's email Paxter. Let's fill up that email box, and let's let them know that we want it over here.
Get some demand.
Yeah.
Going,
yeah, and I agree with you. I think that every government and all cities that want to go green, they need a Paxter for sure. We sell to many cities for park and control. You know, this parking people are going around and check vehicles. It's really good for that, and for handymans in the government or cities. Yeah, it's every city that want to go green should have a Paxter, I think.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today, Arild, to tell us all about Paxter. I'm really intrigued. I want to learn more. I want people out there to go find out about it because, yeah, again, I didn't know about it till you reached out and told us about it, and we cover this stuff. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I'm happy to be able to be on your show. So, and if you go to Norway or Europe anytime, you're for sure welcome here and try some Paxters and have some fun together. So just tell me.
We're going to take you up on that. That's
Definitely.
awesome. Thank you so much. Now you know.